Hey everybody, are you ready to get to know the new FedNow service? Are you ready to take a deeper dive, to actually plunge in and learn what's going to be offered? To start understanding the processes and the flow and the capabilities that will be available? To know who the participants are? Hey, what about that settlement liquidity management thing? Fraud controls, use cases, and most importantly, what you need to do to be prepared and ready to implement and launch FedNow. Well, let's get started. Where do we start? Well, of course, at the beginning with, what is FedNow? Well, it's awesome. Okay, we need a little bit more than that. FedNow is the latest and the greatest in the payment offerings from the Federal Reserve banks. With FedNow, funds will settle between participating financial institutions in real time. That's giving an instant benefit of where there's no buildup of interbank obligations or short-term credit risk, as well as the immediate benefit to where end users and receivers will have access to their money in seconds. FedNow instant payments. FedNow is coming in 2023. And what can we expect at launch? There's going to be a lot at launch. There's going to be a lot for us to prepare for. And the initial features, they're going to include, well, of course, instant payments. That means 24/7, 365 availability. Any day, anytime, instant payments are going to be available. Or as the professor likes to say it, it's going to be like the Shakira of payments. We're going to have payments whenever, wherever. We will also have core clearing and settlement capabilities. With these credit push transfers completing in only seconds, well, to be clear, FedNow will be only credit push, credit only payments. There will be no debits. But don't think that limits the use cases. As we'll see later in the course, there is still the ability to be able to pay bills, to be able to pay invoices, even within a credit push system. FedNow will also have a FedNow portal for participating financial institutions or their service providers to be able to support queries, reports, and manage configurations. And that'll include access to balance information. And you'll have that available around the clock. There'll be activity reports that are available on demand and made at the end of the day. More of that in an upcoming class. Settlement flexibility. Financial institutions will be able to settle using their own master account, or they can make use of a correspondence master account. Adjustable participation options include support for the use of service providers and for correspondence. Features can be configured for each individual routing and transit number that is enabled on the system, such as the ability to receive customer transfers, send and receive customer transfers, or receive requests for payments. And of course, the support for financial institution liquidity management transfers, and support for settlement services for other financial institutions as well. There's a lot that's going to be there and a lot that's going to be available. An FI can connect to the FedNow service through Fedline Solutions directly or through a financial institution's service provider working as its agent. You know, that's all great. But what about some of those use cases before we get too deep into this? We will get into more as the course continues. For now, know that the initial use cases that will be supported include some of our most basics that we see in all the payments. Account-to-account transfers, problem solved. Customer bill payments, problem solved. That alone covers the majority of payments, doesn't it? Oh, business-to-business payments too, problem solved. Will FedNow be safe? FedNow will have the latest and the greatest when it comes to security and risk mitigation controls. We will see encryption of all data flows as well. There will be features to support message integrity and data security. Plus, there will be tools to help financial institutions combat fraud. Tools to combat fraud? What kind of tools? Tools to set transaction value limits, and even the ability to reject transactions to or from specific accounts. But that's not all. As the FedNow service will also have network level maximum transaction value limits, currently $500,000 per single transaction. And side note, All payment channels have transaction limits of some sort. And with new systems, it's extremely important to have, I guess you could say, lower limits to start off with. That allows us to get comfortable with the payments flow and processing and to learn how everything's going to work. So I do expect this limit to actually be adjusted over time. And of course, as a financial institution, you can set a lower transaction limit. You can actually go below the service limit if you choose to do so. That's up to you on the send side. Security controls are great, but how is everything going to work? How about knowing that FedNow has been built on the most widely used faster payments industry standard worldwide, and that is the ISO 20022. This is the globally used format, and through the ISO 20022 format, although it is a little specific for how FedNow is using it, we will also see the industry best practices to support interoperability. The ISO 20022 standard, it comes with a lot of great features. It includes the ISO messages and extended data capabilities, like having credit push payments with an option to include remittance information in payment messages and request for payment messages. That request for payment, that's going to be huge. We're going to see that it's going to change the future of payments. Information that can be very helpful for accounts receivable and payable users, and information for moving money by users is important as well. And so is managing and monitoring of the movement of that money. And to help, FedNow will, of course, support financial institution to financial institution liquidity management transfers. And in support of instant payments, there will also be system-wide broadcasted messages. These are messages notifying of changes to participant availability to receive credit transfers, as well as a list of participating routing numbers. We want to know who's on the network and who's available, and that's what will be available in that particular feature. Okay, you're probably saying, FedNow sounds incredible, but who can use it? As I mentioned before, a financial institution can connect to the FedNow service through a Fedline solution. Now that is either going to be directly or through a financial institution service provider as its agent or access point to get to FedNow. As FedNow has been created for financial institutions who access the Federal Reserve's financial services, and financial institutions acting as agents of others can directly connect to the FedNow service on behalf of others. Working with a correspondent, working with a banker's bank, working with a corporate credit union, all of that is available. However, other organizations may want to understand how they too can leverage this new service as a platform for innovation in partnerships with financial institutions. Oh my, that is just an introduction to what FedNow is for now. There's more to come on our journey to preparing for and implementing FedNow. But for now, class dismissed.